In the news this week, the public and unions back Fremantle Port following Westport announcement.
McGowan unconcerned over an expected legal challenge to his emergency Clive Palmer legislation.
Seeing off our heroes, the first group of WA nurses to fly to Victoria to join the fight against the coronavirus outbreak.
And on Western Perspective, a feature interview with Brodie Mcculloch as the youngest mayoral contender.
This is the Evening News with Ivan Leung and Sarah Smith.
Good evening. There are new developments into the Kwinana Outer Harbour, with unions coming together in support of keeping the Fremantle Port. Our recent news poll shows viewers are in favour of Fremantle. As the debate continues, we'll have the Minister's comment in just a moment. But first, Taylor Hanna has the exclusive details.
With more than half of our viewers in support of maintaining Fremantle Port, the government's plans to proceed with the Outer Harbour have been labelled as unnecessary and expensive.
I think it's been fascinating to see that there is such strong support for it in the community, and I'm not surprised, to be honest with you. The Outer Harbour will be a project you probably will need eventually, but the City of Fremantle's position on this is that we shouldn't build it prematurely. There's a lot of life in the inner harbour left yet.
Fremantle Port could accommodate up to 2 million containers comfortably. However, only 700,000 are being moved currently, with 200,000 of those containers empty.
What Mr McGowan is saying. Here we are running at less than 40% capacity. Alannah MacTiernan, the Transport Minister, and others have turned round and said that we would be full in Fremantle Harbour in 2007. We're now at 2020 and about 38% capacity.
Mr Kane said the Outer Harbour is not needed and the $8 billion projected cost should be redirected into other struggling industries. The MUA calls on the government to leave these issues of ports, jobs and the environment to the experts.
The thing they forget, they are making millions of dollars out of this port that goes back into the economy. We believe there is big business development. Developers out there have got their eyes all over Fremantle, eyeing it up for the land. It is worth billions down there. What we believe is they want to build high-rises.
The proposed options for the future of the Fremantle Port and the Kwinana Outer Harbour have been meticulously reviewed, with Mr Kane now taking these matters to the ACTU with 100% support from other union divisions in construction, mining, manufacturing and maritime.
It's no longer the MUA. It's no longer the Fish Army. We have now, and I'm on the executive of the ACTU, I will be taking a resolution to the executive of the ACTU, which covers all unions in Australia, and I'll be putting up that we are against an outer harbour where we were selling jobs out.
Taylor Hanna, WAMN News.
Regional Development Minister Alannah MacTiernan also responded to the polls, admitting there's a romance between the public and the Fremantle Port.
However, she says successive governments for the last 30 years in WA have been trying to move the container terminal down to Cockburn Sound.
I put the case that was developed by the task force. I say that it has been recognised by every single government for the last 30 years that we need to move the container facility to Cockburn Sound, that in the long run it is going to create too many inefficiencies and supply constraints to continue to try to squeeze that growing number of containers into the Fremantle facility. A port is there to facilitate trade. A port is there to make it possible for our businesses to thrive and prosper. And there will be a new life for Fremantle Port. You know, we're not talking about it moving for another 12 years, and possibly it will still remain as a container facility for the next 20 or 25. So this is not going to happen overnight. In the meantime, we will be seeing a revitalisation, a rejuvenation of Victoria Quay.
Brad Pettit believes that the $8 billion figure of keeping Fremantle Port is questionable. And then you have the MUA jumping up and down saying that jobs will be lost because of automation. And on the other hand, the rail, bus and tram union says they prefer option B if the Kwinana Port goes ahead for easier rail access. How do you respond to
Well, but just with the facts, that's why we had the task force, to actually analyse all these claims. And can I say, the position of the Fremantle Council, its official position, is completely nonsensical. It says it supports Fremantle remaining as the container terminal, provided that there is no increased imposition in terms of traffic on the community. I mean, well, how are we going to be able to double and triple the number of containers without doing it? I mean, that is a gutless decision. That is trying to have your cake and eat it too. Now, I understand the romance of the port. I go down there and I find it's beautiful. I love seeing the ships come in. But at the end of the day, we've got to understand what the port is about. The port is about trade facilitation. The port is about getting our products in and out with maximum efficiency. That just can't be done. That won't be possible to do from Fremantle in the decades to come. And we have to make that hard decision.
Premier Mark McGowan has brushed off concerns that Clive Palmer will litigate over the legislation blocking his $30 billion legal claim. Meanwhile, Deputy Premier Roger Cook called for the billionaire to apologise for his offensive remarks made against the WA government. Helene Fung reports.
Premier Mark McGowan said he expects Mr Palmer to challenge the unprecedented legislation that blocks his $30 billion legal claim.
We're very confident of our position, but obviously he will litigate. That's what he does.
In an extraordinary move, the Premier told the public to expect that any criticism of the state government is funded by the billionaire.
Just say to all West Australians, whenever you hear anything negative about me and the government, Clive Palmer is paying for that with your money. With your money. Money that comes from this state.
Deputy Premier Roger Cook was less than impressed at Mr Palmer's comment against the WA government and called for the businessman to apologise.
Quite frankly, that's embarrassing, and Mr Palmer should apologise to the Premier and indeed to members of the Jewish community.
Helene Fung, WAMN News.
The first batch of WA nurses flew to Victoria this week to lend a hand in the state's COVID-ravaged residential aged care system. Health Minister Roger Cook praised the courage of WA health workers before they board the flight to Melbourne. Fiona Stanley Hospital nurse Caitlin Murray said she never thought twice about putting her hand up to fly east. At the same time, Rockingham nurse Troy Jones agrees.
Yeah, look, we are really proud of her, but it's our baby girl.
Yeah, I think from the minute it came out, I pretty much straight away applied. You know, if you have the means to do it and if you can do it, if it's in the skill, I think you should.
WA Police is set to boost its crime-fighting resources following a $96.5 million funding boost to its services. Under the funding, Fremantle will have a purpose-built station, 15 regional and metro stations will be refurbished, the Water Police will get a new wharf and upgraded radio network, and Police Minister Michelle Roberts says it'll produce safer, modern facilities and jobs. And it's all part of WA's recovery plan.
Fremantle is a major regional centre. We need a major policing complex here, and as government-owned land and a central site, for us, this is ideal.
Arson squad detectives are investigating a blaze in Burragoon where the Spotlight store in Melville suffered complete damage. The inferno quickly spread through the building with signs of structural collapse, which forced the fire crews to withdraw. Southern and western sides of the building later collapsed. Fortunately, no one was injured.
The building is of a tilt-up panel design, and a tilt-up panel is held together by its roof. So once a fire gets intense internally, it expands the roof substructure, and if that loses its integrity, that's what's actually holding the walls up, and at that point, walls can fall out.
A Defence WA spokesman has confirmed there were signs of forced entry into the premise. All stocks in the store were destroyed, and the buildings will have to be demolished. Police urged anyone with information to call Crime Stoppers.
Australia's unemployment rate has edged up slightly, with more Australians now out of work. ABS data has revealed that the rate moved from 7.4 to 7.5%, with the data also estimating that more than 1 million Australians were unemployed in early July. WA's rate currently sits at 8.3%, falling from 8.7% in June, but the opposition says WA should be in a better position.
What we hear from the government is that we've eased restrictions more than any other state in Australia. We have a surging mining sector that is supposedly carrying the nation, and yet we have the second highest unemployment levels in Australia and well above the national average.
UWA's biggest book sale was back for another year, raising money for the Save the Children charity. Money raised goes towards supporting disadvantaged children here in WA, nationally and overseas. Previous years have raised over $200,000. However, Mr Nichols believes this year won't be as profitable due to the collection depot closure for 3 months during COVID-19. But that didn't stop readers of all ages coming to grab a bargain, with books for sale in all genres, from comics all the way to philosophy.
People say, oh, books are going out of fashion and people want to read online. But from our point of view, it's simply not true. Not only do we get older people coming in here, but a lot of the people coming to this sale are young people, students, kids, and they're all wanting to read, which is really encouraging.
And that's our weekly news and current affairs. For news anytime, you can visit our website and social media pages.
See you next weekend and have a good night.
Wish you good health and take care.